But as you start to move more up market, now you have bigger teams and maybe more experienced teams and honestly a little bit more skeptical of the hype of AI. And they want like,
protective as well, probably for
protective.
their own roles. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're looking
And
at
they want more of that transparency and control, right? They're like, okay, if you're going to change something, what are you doing? Like, how did you get that insight? Like, show me in the data where, why do you think this is the causation for, decrease in conversions or whatever? And they want to click that. That's probably like more mid-market, I would say. And then all the way up in the enterprise, you will have the customer Nikes and Ubers of the world where they're like, we are going to develop our own, in-house models and we need you to hook into that. And that's where maybe, solutions like an MCP server or something, an interface where literally your APIs are connecting to their brain. They're building the brain, kind of makes sense. But what I think it's funny, back to your question. So Klaviyo's strategy is like, we're starting down and moving up because we think up is the hardest. And honestly, up, if you're talking about APIs, really it's the LLM vendor making the money, right? And you're just hooking into it. But what we're seeing,
that's with all the tools, right? All these AI tools, they're just wrappers of,
But down market, you're basically wrapping it for the customer because that's what the customer wants. They're not going to build the thing themselves. They want you to do it for them.
Hey everyone, welcome back to season 2 of College Confidentials. And this is the inaugural episode. And today I have with me from Klaviyo, as I've been told. I always pronounce it Klaviyo, but that's probably just because I'm here in Europe. But from Klaviyo, we have James Fang. He's the vice president of product marketing. And we got talking to each other on LinkedIn, and I thought this is a great guy to invite into the show. Not only because he's working for Klaviyo, but he does also have a lot of CDP experience from working at mParticle in the past. James, welcome. Super excited to have you here on the first episode. The summer is slowly disappearing behind me, the summer holidays. And I'm all psyched to get into the second half of the year. And thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. And just for clarification, I was previously vice president of product marketing at mParticle. I'm actually just a director at Klaviyo, but I lead up the data analytics as well as AI and just general platform products at Klaviyo. But I'm happy to hear and really excited to talk about the topic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because Klaviyo, I mean, this is one of the topics we had. We were kind of discussing in the chat before we even got into this into the recording. Is I refer to Klaviyo as a CEP, as a customer engagement platform. But you corrected me. You said your preferred terminology is MAP, a marketing automation platform. Yeah. What's the difference for you?
Yeah, so CEP, I think, is a term that was sort of invented. And to be honest, I'm not even really sure what it actually entails. I'm guessing it implies that engagement happens in realms beyond marketing, or maybe there's a sense of like loyalty, retention. Would you even consider that marketing? I would say it is sort of still marketing at the end of the day, right? And so marketing automation has always just been, what the industry has called it in general, not specific vendors. Obviously, if you talk about the analysts, they call it like cross-channel or omni-channel marketing hubs, but it's a similar idea, right? Actually, Klaviyo has taken a little bit of further step ourselves, and I admit it's a little bit of marketing, but we're calling ourselves a B2C CRM, just throw ourselves into the mix in a different way. And our justification for that is we actually launched a service offering. So, a CRM, you think of it as a full lifecycle customer relationship management, right? Pre-sales to post-sales. And so that's why we think we're justified in saying that. But I still prefer the term marketing automation because it's very more specific to what the actual thing does versus marketing jargon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think if you have the M letter in there, I was just, while you were asking yourself what's the difference between MAP and a CEP, and that it was, or the CEP was invented. I was like, it's just one, it's one letter up in the alphabet from CDP. So we go from data to engagement, and it's an interesting. Well, okay, it's marketing jargon, but I think when you talk about marketing automation, you hit a lot of nails on the head there. It's very clear and what the intention is of that platform. But so correct me, B2C CRM, and why that little marketing add on to the product there? I mean, what are you guys hoping to? What kind of attention are you hoping to gain with that?
Yeah, so a couple of reasons. One is we looked at the landscape in B2C, and we found it a lot more fragmented than B2B. B2B, it's almost synonymous when you use the term CRM, Salesforce. Yes, there's HubSpot and others. But if you look at what Salesforce does, it's the whole landscape, right? They have a data platform, they have Marketing Cloud, Sales Cloud, which is not relevant to B2C, Service Cloud, right? On top of a whole app ecosystem built on top, integrations, everything, right? But in the B2C world, you're buying fragmented solutions, right? You have a standalone CDP, you have a standalone, not even marketing automation platform. You have a tool for each channel sometimes. You have a separate service tool, right? And so, Klaviyo really took the bold moment and said, we are actually going to announce something that encompasses truly all the surface area of a native built-in CDP, embedded CDP as the underlying database, and a marketing app, a service app, and even an analytics suite that sits on top of a shared database. We're not talking about 2 copies of profiles in each app. We're not talking about a messy ecosystem of integrations like the clouds. We're talking about a true single database with multiple ways to use the word engage the customer throughout their life cycle, right? And so we thought, we're like, what do we call that, right? And the closest thing I think that resonates is people understand what a B2B CRM does, so we'll call ourselves a B2C CRM.
And when you talk about that central, that single source of truth where you guys are, do you call them modules, or I mean, how would you describe all these different packages?
Yes, so we call ourselves the underlying data layer, just the Klaviyo data platform. And it's interesting, if you look at the history of the company, we didn't start off as an email tool. We started off as a customer database. But, I think
interesting. I didn't know that.
We did. And the founders kind of, brilliant folks, MIT, what they found though was a database is nice, but people want to know, how do I use that database? Yeah. And, either they could, connect it with all the tools out there. And back then, of course, these were very legacy tools, right? Oracle responses, Salesforce Marketing Cloud.
Yeah.
All right. And so they're like, let's build something more modern on top of that. And over time, they started adding channels, SMS. Now we have, WhatsApp, RCS, right? We're in-app messaging, push, etc.
Yeah.
And then, we added service and we added analytics, right? And so, now we have this amazingly powerful database that's fast, flexible. It's not just rigid in schema, doesn't just store even just profiles and events. You can store various custom data objects. And so, we decided, your question is, how do we think about it? Yeah, so you got the Klaviyo data platform on the bottom, and you have literally native apps sitting on top, and you can buy, marketing by itself, you can buy service by itself, but it is always on top of this common shared customer database that is embedded and comes with the platform. So two questions come to mind there. I want to say the C word, composable. Does this kind of make you guys composable to a certain extent? I mean, like you said, they're all separate modules. And the first thing that popped into my mind is like, how flexible is this? And it kind of ties into the second question, where you have the KDP, the Klaviyo's data platform. Is that something that is proprietary to Klaviyo, or can people also choose to kind of connect their own cloud data warehouse in that and make it run on that? Yeah. So good question. So, in terms of composability, I would say, you cannot decouple the database from any application, right? Let's be honest. There's no application that can't run without understanding how to run it. And so, yes, you when you buy Klaviyo Marketing, it comes with Klaviyo Data Partner. When you buy Klaviyo Service, it comes with Klaviyo Data Platform. But you
Yeah.
don't have to buy Service with Marketing, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Same thing with Analytics. It's a separate add-on, right? Of course, Analytics doesn't really make sense if you don't have the other two, because what are you even analyzing any data on, right? And to your second question of in terms of data warehouse, today we aren't like doing things like zero copy today yet,
Yeah.
although that's not, I would say far from the future. But we are allowing customers to ingest data from their warehouse.
Okay.
Yeah, and our logic behind that is, yeah, we understand that the data warehouse will always be a source, whether people are creating their own custom models in there, or offline events or metrics or whatever, or again custom data projects they want to bring in. But I guess we're just not so religious on the idea
No.
and I'm being clear that like some people believe that all the compute cycles need to be on the warehouse and there's
Yeah.
only need to be one copy. We're like,
Yeah,
we'll get the customers some flexibility. Yep.
There's an argument for both sides. The purists and the more, I don't want to say realist, because that makes the purist sound more negative. But I mean, it really depends on the situation where what are the client's needs. I'm actually doing some research now on what does CDPs mean in developing countries. Country or I forgot what the word was. The continents like Africa and South America, where the big brands like Salesforce and Adobe, they might not really be financially interesting to the companies' budgets that they have there. So what does it mean there? And I think solutions like the way you've just described Klaviyo, and it sounds a lot like, this is what. Is it, would I call it packaged or suite? I think there are definitely needs for those type of solutions out there. And, but that's a whole different discussion. But talking about other CDPs, like you mentioned in the beginning, when I got your job title wrong at Klaviyo, you did a stint at mParticle.
Yeah.
How, did your work at mParticle kind of, put you into this mold of what a CDP should be, or did it kind of help you put Klaviyo into a better perspective once you started there?
Absolutely. I would say, first of all, when I joined mParticle, I would say the two big names out there were, at the time, Segment, which was an independent entity, and mParticle. Yes, there was treasure data, and Telium was always out there. There was more of a tag management solution back then, if we were honest.
Yeah, Telium IQ. They've been going full steam ahead as well now.
Yeah, and then when I started, I think really the big problem back then was simply data management and data integration, right? Ensuring that you had the original problem actually mParticle was solving was they went after mobile first, and there was this general idea that people had to install all these libraries and that clogged their phone memory and storage and slow down performance. And also they had to embed tracking code for every sort of, analytics tool or,
was this at the time that Mixpanel was also really up and coming and focused on mobile tracking?
Exactly. Mixpanel, Apps Flyer, AppBoy, which is previously Braze, right? And so that was the perfect ecosystem, right? Because you had all these up and coming tools that people needed, and people were like, I don't need to install 3 SDKs and write tracking code for everything. And so that's how mParticle came to the picture. And again, data integration was at the forefront of the CDP problem. And then, of course, though, the market changed. And soon it became, okay, the data is nice, but of course, what do you do with the data?
Yeah.
Right. Then it became a battle of things like segmentation, right? And then like even computed traits and predictive traits. But then, when I was there, I started noticing everyone else, not just the MAP platforms, even the analytics platforms, the amplitudes, the mix panels, they started developing the exact same feature sets, right? They also have segmentation and predictive models and everything. And so it became a question of where would that reside, right? And as the CDP vendor, we always made the case that you want to centralize it because why would you, want to create a segment in a downstream tool and a different segment in a downstream tool, when you can create a single one, right? But the problem with that always was the downstream tools would claim, okay, if you create it in an upstream tool, you then have to sync it. And sure, even if that sync was real time, you're causing the user to do a swivel chair. You're forcing them to go into a separate tool, create a segment there in a tool that they're probably not used to. They don't use, is not, may not even be relevant to the day-to-day lives, or they're relying on some other team to do it, which will cost time. And then they have to jump back to the tool where they actually use the segment in like a campaign or something, right? Or an analysis. And that just doesn't make sense. And what we found was it was mostly a losing battle, to be honest, because
I fully agree. I mean, these were always difficult discussions to have because, just to kind of cut in here, I mean, with the CDP, you were really talking about, in a lot of cases, IT and the data teams. But as soon as you push that data into, I've got this one case in mind where they were using Segment and Iterable. And Iterable is where the marketeers were sitting. And they're like, we don't want the segments to be built in Segment. Just push all the data into Iterable and let us do the work there.
Exactly. Yeah. So the CDPs were trying to grow, they're trying to expand, and they were telling the story. Even the analysts were telling the story. And what was funny was the CDP analysts were battling the marketing automation analysts, right? But again, I think what the market eventually evolved to is, and you saw it through acquisitions like mParticle itself, is that CDP as a standalone, most of the value is still, even today, contained in a lot of data integration tasks. Right. And that's why I think, especially as the downstream vendors mature even further. So we're talking about the last mile here, like advanced identity resolution, like probabilistic stuff, things that very few CDPs could do, or, data quality management, schema enforcement. Once that last mile is covered, and again, even you saw Amplitude, although they kind of deprecated their CDP, they did build some of those features. Then you really start to ask, like, is the middleman, necessary? Do I need to make, another hop, another set of licensing costs to do that?
So where was Klaviyo at this point then? Because like you said, they started out as a customer database, and then they started thinking about, all right, hey, we've got all this data. Let's not sit on it like it's some kind of egg we're trying to raise here. Let's do something with it. I mean, at that point, because like you said, Klaviyo does have a lot of those features now. Is that the moment where Klaviyo said, "Hey, we need to embed CDP style features into our product"?
Yeah, I would say so. So we always had, again, the unified profile management, some sort of identity management, some sort of segmentation, a pretty advanced segmentation, to be honest. And
with a customer database, you would need that. I mean,
And so we said, hey, we already act kind of as a CDP for a lot of our customers, and especially down market. Klaviyo, oftentimes you may see this too. People implement the CEP or MAP tool first before even considering something else. And so for a lot of those customers, we're like, don't buy a CDP. We're already doing most of the jobs for you, right? And so, but then they would object and say, like, yes, our users are getting more sophisticated. There are more devices. We need more advanced ID res and whatever. And we're like, okay, fine. But now, we're making active steps to develop even some of those advanced capabilities, because we do see the market moving in that direction. And so the way our offering works, again, is you buy any of those clouds, you get the KDP layer for free, which is your standard CDP features, but we also have an upsell package for what we call the advanced data management feature sets. And that's kind of like, if you want true CDP, like functionality, things like advanced identity resolution, things like, data transformations, or, reverse ETL, buy the whole suite, right? So,
No, it's interesting you say that, because I was at the beginning of this year. I was working on a migration from a Selligent to Braze package, and this customer also had a quite complex. Advanced is a better word. More quite an advanced segment setup. But as soon as we were implementing the Braze in this instance, and I not focusing on Braze, but just the segment that they're in, no pun intended there, but
Yeah.
is that the question arose during that process: what do we still need Segment for?
Yeah.
And is that something you see a lot in the kind of the implementations or the customers that you're onboarding now? Is that maybe customers who already, you did say,
Mhm.
most of them start with an MAP.
Mhm.
And my philosophy there is that it's the results you get from an MAP are not as abstract as that with a CDP.
Mhm.
Trying to
Mhm.
the effects on your profit and loss from a CDP is very unclear. But
Yeah.
from an MAP, you can
Yep.
see the results almost immediately. So
Yep.
is that something you're seeing as well now with customers who do have a CDP already in place? Is that they're
Yeah.
kind of starting to doubt the requirements for that CDP now?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have some public case studies actually, so I can reference a couple. Like Daily Harvest is one that consolidated down OXO and Hydro Flask, which is
Yeah.
owned by a master brand, Helen of Troy. They also did the same thing. Those are all both public references, and there are many more. Um, and yeah, but what we're seeing is, typically a customer will first of all ask the question of, well, can you really do everything Segment does? Those, the data teams will push back and start naming these advanced features, and sometimes we'll push
Yeah.
back and say like, do you really need that? Like you're a gym, or you're, like how many people are gonna, fool you with, 10 different email addresses, and right, like, do you really need that? And then, the second question though is, of course there's typically some contractual agreement, and you're actually seeing it too. Like, I think Twilio just released their earnings, and
Yeah.
they blew it out of the water on the comm side and on the pass side, but then Twilio, I think, stayed flat, right? So
Yeah, I think it
that's,
was 1.2 billion on their comms and
yeah.
0% revenue growth. But actually, I think it was still a decrease against operational costs. But I couldn't exactly see it. But
Yeah. Mhm.
I hope I did see their rebrand, so I think something's brewing internally there about that they might see that things need to change.
Mhm.
The question is when and how are they going to change? But you're
Yeah.
right. It's I think this is a great moment for companies to really start thinking about consolidation. It's what the Martech or State of Martech report
Mhm.
reported on, that this is, or I think even that was 2024,
Yep.
that this was going to be that was going to be the year, sorry, 2024, the year of consolidations.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of commoditization within these CDP features.
Mhm.
And I even came across another small startup in Australia, and they were actively pushing the message, we're a CEP with a CDP built in.
Mm.
And it's amazing to see that. I mean, I love CDPs, deep in my heart. They're just the kind of the technology.
Yeah.
A little bit from my background, I was enamored by this book, Complete Web Monitoring, in
Mhm.
2012, where it finally told a story about how you can combine quantitative and qualitative data to tell the full story. But
Yeah.
I still felt that then you got Optimizely came into the market, VWO,
Mhm.
where you could say, hey, let's start doing A/B testing
Mhm.
and start connecting your behavioral data to tools like VWO and Optimizely to really start making a difference. And
Yeah.
I think that's completely involved into this whole CDP, MAP
Yeah.
arena. But having said that, I think it's lovely, and that's really the word I want to use, that all these CDP features are being acknowledged
Yeah.
by the likes of Klaviyo, and saying, hey, yeah, it really does work. But I think the setting where you can get the most value out of it, and the way you can communicate to companies to say,
Yeah.
to make it clear, less abstract, like I said earlier, is to put it closer to where the dollars are earned. I think that's one of the first rules I ever learned when doing digital analytics. Say, hey,
Yeah.
when you start doing analysis, move from the money backwards. So move from where the conversions take place, where you're actually getting the money from the customers, and then move backward in the funnel, because you want to solve the problems where the money is. And I think that's what MAPs are probably doing now with those CDP technologies or
Yeah.
features.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Wholeheartedly agree.
So it's
Mhm.
yeah. So what do you see? I mean, you also I think you also involved with AI at Klaviyo. Now,
Yes. Mhm.
you can't turn your head. I even got a notification today that my daughter through Google,
Yeah,
the parent set up that my daughter signed up for an account at OpenAI. There's no escaping
of
AI,
course.
but and there's been a lot of, I think the Martech Weekly Forum. So Keanu Taylor, they'll be coming out with a report soon about how enterprises, adopt agentic AI or AI agents. But
Yep.
what's Klaviyo doing with AI at the moment? That's might be different to what's already there, or I'm
Yeah.
really curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we have all the kind of more traditional, call it ML AI stuff, right? Like,
Yeah,
predictive CLV, uh, the next thing you're going to buy, what time you're going to buy that. We've always had
yeah,
that, but we do agree that, in general, the market is moving more towards autonomy, and there may be a future where the marketer's role is going to evolve. Actually, my own role has evolved as a marketer. Like, I'm not writing, you know, I am still writing copy, but I'm using AI to help me write copy,
yeah,
right? So the strategic mindset is still going to be required, but the lifecycle marketer is not going to spend hours with writer's block, not sure what to start with, right? So the AI is going to not only help ideate, but optimize and iterate and maybe even individually tailor. However, we do see a bifurcation in the market because when you go down market, imagine these marketing teams, they're like one or two people and they
hmm
own all the channels. And frankly, they don't even have time to individually inspect every campaign, individually inspect their automated, automations, right? Abandoned cart
yeah,
flows or
yeah.
whatever. And
It's
so
impossible. I
it's
mean, in
impossible.
40-hour week. Yeah,
Yeah. So what they really want is tell me, what's underperforming. Um, Tell me, like, this is my recommendation to tweak your abandoned cart flow. This is my recommendation to tweak your welcome series. This should, theoretically result
yeah.
in this type of
Because
uplift. Yeah.
not to put you guys on a not to put
Yeah.
you guys on a pedestal though, but
Yeah.
is this kind of the advantage of also having an integrated analytics package into your your suite?
Yeah. Absolutely. The fact that we are already, offering the kind of the visibility to do it yourself. Now we kind of feed
Hmm.
that back into the AI loop, and the AI is able to say, hey, this, and we also have, we don't share, we don't typically share PI, we definitely don't share any PI data or use, customers' data to train another customer's model.
Yeah.
But we do have benchmarks, right? And so we're able to compare and say, like, hey, you are a e-com vendor that's this size, or you are, and even within e-com, you're an apparel vendor, or you are a service-oriented vendor, a gym or whatever, compared to this, and you're
Yeah.
underperforming
Yeah.
your welcome series, right? And so, yeah, we do have that advantage to say that. So, back to your original question. Yeah. So we see down market has that type of requirement, just almost like, tell me what to do and just let me click a couple buttons and agree with you and deploy it. And I'll see for
Yeah.
myself whether your thing actually helps me or not. But as you start to move more up market, now you have bigger teams and maybe more experienced teams, and honestly a little bit more skeptical of the hype of AI. And they want,
Well,
like, yeah,
protective as well, probably for
protective.
their own roles. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
they're looking
And
at.
they want more of that transparency and control, right? They're like,
Yeah.
okay, if you're going to change something, what are you doing? Like, how did you get that insight? Like, show me in the data where, why do you think this is the causation for,
Yeah.
decrease in conversions or whatever? And they want to click that. That's probably like more mid-market, I would say. And then all the way up in the
Yeah.
enterprise, you will have the customers, the Nikes and Ubers of the world, where they're like, we are going to develop our own, in-house models, and we need you to hook into that. And that's where maybe, solutions like an MCP server or something, an
Yeah.
interface where literally your APIs are connecting to their brain, they're building the brain, kind of makes sense. But what I think it's funny, back to your question. So Klaviyo's strategy is like, we're starting down and moving up because we think up is
Yeah.
the hardest. And honestly, up, if you're talking about APIs, really it's the LLM vendor making the money, right?
Oh
And you're
yeah.
just hooking into it. But what we're
That's
seeing,
isn't it, that's with
yeah,
all the tools, right?
yeah,
All these AI tools, they're just
yeah,
wrappers of yeah.
yeah. But down market, you're basically wrapping it for the customer because that's what the customer wants. They're not going to build the thing themselves. They want you to do it for them, right? Build it for them and give the
and
recommendations.
you kind of offer interfaces at this point in time. I mean, I've heard of solutions where, let's say, you want an answer on a specific segment of users from your database. You put in the question, you get results. I've seen examples where there's a lot of Gen AI where they say, "Hey, I need to create a campaign for on WhatsApp. Can you generate do the journey orchestration of orchestration, I guess you want to call it." They build out the entire flow and they build out the content within the flow, even doing images, etc. I mean, is that what you're seeing at kind of the lower tiers?
So it's even more than that. So we already are doing that, by the way, where you can use natural language and be like, can you build a segment that does X, or can you build a flow that does this? The step beyond that again is we have the benchmarks. We know how your flows are performing. We have the performance, and we're telling you, we think your welcome series flow is underperforming, and we think these specific tweaks are going to bring it up to where everyone else is at, right, or even exceed them. And then again, the marketer sees that and they click on it because that intrigues them. They're like, okay, and then they look at the changes that you're proposing. And it says, do you want to deploy them? And you say yes, right? So that's kind of the vision. I'm describing a little bit of forward thinking, but like that's where we see, I think, the most adoption for AI initially, and then as we move up market, it's everyone else.
It's the carrot. It's the carrot on the stick. I mean, it's going to pull forward their interest in how AI is going to help them move forward. I mean, we've seen other solutions on the market like AI decisioning now, where they also talk about guardrails and reinforcement learning. I mean, is that where Klaviyo wants to go as well, or is there also, you mentioned that where the system will give you feedback on, let's say your onboarding flow is not can be optimized, these are the suggestions that we have, do you want to implement it? Won't, you're not at the point yet where you want to do that automatically?
I mean, we already do some things, like we have experiments and A/B tests, right? That's halfway there, but we're not at the point where, like,
you guys have so many features I don't know about. I thought I knew Klaviyo, but
we have global holdout groups, so you kind of have to build everything as a marketer, right? But we're not at the point where, again, it's fully autonomous, kind of like let the machine tweak, let the machine run all the experiments themselves. That's the final step, but it certainly is in the radar, and I think, again, can't promise everything, without spilling the juices.
We're all learning at the moment and discovering what's possible. Hey, let's go back to I have an integrations question, because I think it was the LXA. It was the State of Martech Operations report, and I think it was that report where they said that one of the biggest pain points right now is integrations within Martech operation, or Martech in general. So you just mentioned, like, customers like Nike, they would want to build their own AI models and kind of plug into Klaviyo. How well does Klaviyo currently play with others at the moment? So would you guys be able to plug into something, somebody's, be it MCP, be it an API? It's almost the same, but just in a wrapper. But with those type of solutions?
We actually we have in beta right now Klaviyo MCP server, right? And that works with that works currently with Anthropic and Cursor. OpenAI, I think, announced support for MCP, but if people are figuring it out little by little, I think it requires also ChatGPT Pro, which is a very expensive license. But we think it'll work. But we also have just APIs. Anyone can, of course, fetch
in the sense
data.
That you want to customers to actually use Klaviyo data as a source within their Claude desktop instance, or you really want to have systems communicate with others?
So the initial use case.
So let me rephrase that. I think the question is, what kind of use cases are you guys looking at for the Klaviyo MCP?
Yeah, so the initial use cases we think will draw the most traction are just going to be like kind of like natural language queries and visualizations of the Klaviyo data. So
Yeah.
as I mentioned, we have an analytics suite and we have,
Yeah. Yeah.
built-in visualization. But, with when you have an MCP server on top of it, someone can just be like, I'm interested in the last 5 campaigns. I want you to analyze every asset of it, every facet of it, and tell me like what specifically drove X for whatever reason, right? And
Yeah.
it'll pull in the data. The AI can do its own visualization. Now with more sophisticated models that can do even more fancier data analysis, right? And so those are the type of use cases we see as like that's initial, and they could also in natural language say, okay, based on this, I want you to build me a new campaign for this upcoming seasonal thing, and yeah, it'll invoke the API to create the next
Oh,
summer
cool.
campaign. But the true next step, again, is I'm talking about like down market, like
Yeah.
we're doing the benchmark analysis, we're doing the recommendation. Is like, yeah, if you are truly up market and you have all that data yourself, then yeah, you could like, yeah, have the brain and just tell a tool like Klaviyo, like, this is the campaign I have in mind and build it. Right. So we,
Yeah.
we see, we see
No, that's
that.
pretty.
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
No, I think, I think going back to your first use case, I think that's definitely something that could be put to good use. I
Yeah.
mean, I was recently talking to a client, and they were thinking of getting away from one brand, and they had this marketing solution. They were moving away to another one. I won't name brands here, but
Yeah.
the reason behind it is the most interesting part. They said we just don't they were paying kind of double the license fee because the license fee that they were paying to an external agency
Mm.
was done because they didn't have the people internally to properly work with that solution because it was very archaic. You needed special training, and all the people in their marketing team, they were fresh out of college. You wish they'd learned some query languages, but yeah, it was that was
Yeah.
wishful thinking. So, but what they said was is that we're switching to a user friendly tool that has drag and drop interfaces. It has all the logic built in,
Hmm.
and just to be able to patch that gap internally. I think that the way you're describing Klaviyo MCP is interesting as well, not
Hmm.
only from an analytics perspective, because I did see the example that HubSpot announced a month
Hmm.
or two ago
Hmm.
about how you can also build out your visual reports using that MCP connection.
Hmm.
But I like the part where you say, hey, based on this, take action. I think that's going to be critical
Yeah.
because that's going to make the lives of all these marketers using the Klaviyo platform or
Yep.
other companies that adopt this, it's going to make their lives so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, like MCP, perhaps more up market, you have to have some dev resources. But
Yeah.
down market, we're using an LLM under the hood and giving you those recommendations. So that's the
So
one click
you
push.
mentioned,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely, it's going to be a win. But
Yeah.
you mentioned like these two-person marketing teams, and you have the upper. What
Mhm.
kind of where does Klaviyo actually sit in terms of company focus? Are you guys doing small, medium sized, all the way up
Yeah.
to enterprise, or?
Yeah. So our history has been, we started down market, and we had a
Okay.
very strong product led growth motion. We have 67,000 customers today. And I think that might be wrong because in our last earnings report, we announced like 7,000 more.
Yeah.
But we are pushing up market. We also announced, I think, I don't want to misquote the numbers, but something like a 38% growth in customers over 50K ARR.
That use at least one of the Klaviyo products, and each
Yes.
of those products automatically includes the data platform.
Yeah, the data platform. Yeah.
That's it. Wow,
Yeah.
that's big. Yeah.
So yeah, we are moving up market. We're we're strategic about it. Like, we're not tackling
Yeah.
the super compliance heavy, like HIPAA, financial services
Banking,
yet. Yeah,
medical. Yeah.
we're avoiding those, but we're moving up markets for now. I want to say for now.
Yeah.
You always dream, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and with I just had that question on my mind, and it just dropped. Oh yeah, because we
Yeah.
were talking before we started recording around
Yeah.
the news that hit around. I think it was 2 weeks ago or a week ago because my whole
Yapo.
LinkedIn timeline was flooded.
Yeah.
Yotpo.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of people, companies like Klaviyo, jump on this. I mean,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, because I'm not an email marketer or I don't really work with that, they
Mm-hmm.
dropped their email and their SMS, their text messaging
Correct.
offerings
Yeah.
from their
Mm-hmm.
services. What does a situation like that mean to Klaviyo? Is it
Yeah.
really an opportunity to say, "Hey, let's go fishing"? I don't want to put it too bland, but
Yeah.
do we start going after these customers who say, "Hey, but that email and text messaging is the core of our business. We have a heavy reliance on it." But how did that news come into Klaviyo, and what kind of
Yeah.
action did you guys take?
Yeah. So, first of all, Yapo is still a partner of Klaviyo. We have built
Yeah,
built-in integrations with their reviews and their loyalty platforms. Um, and but the truth of it is they kind of dropped this bomb at a really bad time. We've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up, the holiday season, and
yeah.
this is not a
Oh,
time
that's
where
right. Yeah,
people want to fish for a new uh, solution. So I think
yeah, because they're
Klaviyo is,
dropping it real quick, by the way, aren't they?
they are dropping real quick. They're saying if you want to send stuff for the holiday season, get something else in place. So our
Wow.
message is just kind of like just being empathetic and saying like you need a solution, and we have an
Yeah,
integration with Yapo, right? And uh, you know, um, the integration also means that uh, you know, a lot of the data that you have in Yapo can be migrated over because, similar to us, their reviews and their loyalty platform is also built on a shared database, right? So
yeah.
things like profiles and, events and metrics that can be migrated into us. And so, I think in general, the market has been fairly receptive to that. I think all the vendors obviously, um, you know, are coming to fill the
Yeah.
gap. So,
I,
but yeah,
I saw it. Yeah,
yeah, hmm
but it's indeed like a little it's as we say here in Dutch, it's kind of a cold shower
yeah,
event when Yotpo dropped that, especially the timeline. I didn't know about the Black Friday and Cyber Monday, by the way, but you're absolutely right.
hmm
And the speed in which they want to do it, because I think it was also June SO, which is a B2B analytics solution. They got purchased by or acquired by Amplitude, which we mentioned earlier.
yeah,
But they also said, hey, you guys have I think it was like 6 to 8 weeks to migrate away because they were literally pulling the plug
yeah,
on that, which I was like, wow, what a situation to be in. June SO, I think, was really pushed by Y Combinator. All these startups were on it and they were doing a lot of GTM using June SO.
hmm
And I mean, can you imagine this happening on like a Friday afternoon? You're just
yeah,
about to log off in your computer, and this email comes in. The clock's ticking. Well, I
yeah,
hope everything works out well with with the migration of those Yotpo customers who want to migrate to Klaviyo.
yeah,
I'm clearly still kind of a newbie with Klaviyo. I think
hmm
I've been sitting in that CDP realm too much, but now those two worlds are assimilating, like the
yeah,
Borg coming into Star Trek, and it's trying to ignore it is that's going to be futile. And
yeah.
but it's really great to hear from you about the position where Klaviyo is at the moment,
Thank
your
you.
vision around marketing automation platform. And it was great getting to know you, and I look forward to seeing more about Klaviyo. I've got a few connections which I'll definitely drop a line out and see what their opinions are about Klaviyo. But it sounds like it's going to be interesting to see how you guys further develop the suite approach, since
Yeah,
there's there are various camps. Treasure Data launching now a hybrid CDP. You guys are kind of going for a suite. You've got
hmm
high touch on the composable side. I mean, I don't think there's going to be one that's going to win all scenarios.
hmm hmm
But like you said, you guys are still growing, so there's definitely a need for alternatives for the larger suites, in my opinion. That's what I've been seeing personally. So,
yeah.
again, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today.
Of course, it was a pleasure. And if you ever want to see a Klaviyo demo, I'm happy to, offer you one too. So yeah, hmm
I mean, we also do those kind of recordings and put them on. I'd love to do
cool.
that. Yeah, definitely. I'll sign up for that.
All right. Thanks again. Yeah.
See you later, James.
Bye.